Well, my name is Brant, and I'm here with Jed Shaw, otherwise known as Judge Jed Shaw, with Shaw Defense. And Judge Jed has a very unique business, and I wanted to ask him some questions. As it turns out, these are some clarifying questions that he most often receives from his clients and potential clients. And so with that, Judge Jed, it's nice to be with you today. Thanks for taking some time to let me ask you some questions.
Yeah, Brant, I'm happy to do so.
Great. Well, a main question that comes up quite often is this. Why do most Texans still think that bankruptcy is still their only option?
Well, the short answer is that's all they've ever heard. If you've got debts, your next door neighbor, your kinfolk will tell you if you can't pay it, you've got to file bankruptcy. And of course, if you talk to a bankruptcy lawyer, they don't have, and all you've got is unsecured debt. Most bankruptcy lawyers have no imagination, and they'll tell you got to file bankruptcy. And besides that, they need the business. But I can tell you that bankruptcy is not needed for unsecured debts, such as credit cards or medical debts. Bankruptcy is a permanent public record. It's tedious, it's humiliating. You've got endless forms to fill out. There's only one discharge every 7.5 years, so if you use it up on credit cards and you get in a $2 million accident, then you don't have it to discharge that $2 million. And every application you make for the rest of your life will have a question on it, whether it's for credit or it's for a job. Have you ever filed bankruptcy? And you have to answer it honestly.
Okay. So I would say conventional wisdom has always been that if I have debts that there's no way I can foresee my ability to pay them back, that bankruptcy is the only option. So is this something specific to Texans?
Well, Texas is a very unique place. And to tell you the truth, Texas and possibly Florida are the two best states in the United States to have debts, because in particular Texas, we've got such broad exemption statutes. And even if a person would get sued on a credit card debt, for example, or medical debt, and even if they got a judgment against them, there's very little, if any, way that a judgment creditor can recover anything.
Okay.
In these other states, you've got wage garnishment, which is the big issue. So if they get a judgment, that's why they are sued so much in these other states. If you get a judgment, you can get a wage garnishment and get paid.
Okay, so I can tell that your background as a judge, as well as an attorney, has obviously informed you. It's good information because most people are taught that bankruptcy is the only way out. So I think the bottom line that I'm hearing is that people will be well served to talk to you about their situation and probably encouraged to learn that Texas has some pretty lenient statutes that can help them out. So I have a question. What about the commercials that you hear about debt settlement or debt consolidation? Are those good alternatives?
Well, after bankruptcy, you hear about a debt settlement company or debt consolidation company. Very briefly, debt consolidation was very prevalent prior to the recession, and you could go to a bank and consolidate your debts, and the banks would pay off your credit cards, and you make one payment to the bank. These days, banks do not give debt consolidation loans, and even if you've got a great rapport with a bank, you're probably going to have to put up security of at least double the amount that the bank is paying off, and most folks don't have that kind of security.
Okay.
As to debt settlement, there are a lot of large debt settlement companies out there, and we absolutely do not recommend getting hooked up with a debt settlement company. These companies will try to sell you by claiming that each of your debts can be reduced by well, I don't know, 40, 50, 60%. Some will tell you they have arrangements with all the credit card companies to reduce the debts of these percentages. The research that I've done tells me, I know it's to be true, that there are no such arrangements. And also, it's rare that you receive the discounts that you advertise. This is how it works. They take one account. Let's say you've got an account with XYZ Credit Company, and they're able to get a 40% discount. So they will ask you to pay monthly into an account. The account is now in your name. And once they receive the 40%, then they'll pay off that one debt and start again. Well, several things are wrong with that. One, your credit is going to go down. Your FICO score is going to go down just as much as if you hadn't paid anything. And, of course, each one of these payments is a payment toward, is a part of the payment goes to the debt settlement company. And then they probably won't tell you that the unsettled amount is taxable to you under the IRS forgiven debt rule, and you're likely to receive a 1099-C form at the end of the year and have, depending on your tax situation, have to pay tax on it. So we do not recommend these debt settlement companies, and there are no debt consolidation companies that we're aware of.
Okay, good to know. So you mentioned something about FICO scores. What about credit repair? Is that a legitimate service? Should people hire a credit repair company?
Don't ever be induced to retain a credit repair company. There is no legal way to repair your credit except to pay it. The only relief I've heard of is for a derogatory item, that's what they're called, to be to vanish from your credit report. But nearly always it comes back within 90 days. So credit repair companies are just a scam. I won't say that that settlement companies are scams, but the credit repair companies are a scam.
Yeah, well, I know you serve on the board of the Better Business Bureau, so I'm sure that informs your opinion of them as well. So thank you for sharing that. Another question that's very common is it smart to use retirement accounts to pay off debts? If you have retirement funds, that is?
In my opinion, not. And it just kills me when a prospective client tells me that they've been paying their credit cards or their medical debts by robbing their retirement account. We always recommend against that. These are monies that you can put aside for yourself to live on when you retire. And if you've used all these monies to pay off these credit debts, credit card debts, and medical debts, you've got nothing to retire on. So we absolutely do not recommend using any kind of IRA, 401k, pension, or any other retirement account to pay off unsecured credit card debts and medical debts. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for the tip there. And again, I think it comes back to people can possibly take a strategic approach and probably talking to you about their options earlier on rather than later is best. And if they do have some retirement funds, there's probably something they can do with those funds, but probably better to ask first instead of ask once they're spent. So people can take that opportunity to ask you. So another thing that comes up pretty often is this. I've heard a lot of people ask, can I have my wages garnished? Is that something that can happen to me?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, in Texas, their wage garnishment is against the law. So there is no wage garnishment in the state of Texas.
Okay.
Period. The end.
Yeah.
But
well, a lot of
some debt settlement companies or some debt collectors may use that against you by saying, we could garnish your wages, or we could take your house, or that sort of thing. Homesteads are exempt. You cannot garnish wages. Everything in your house is exempt. Your tools of trade are exempt. Everybody's entitled to a car that's exempt. So there's very little that a judgment creditor can do to recover, even if they've sued you and gotten a judgment against you.
Yeah, I'm starting to see why bankruptcy in Texas it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in most cases. And another concern I know has kept many people up at night and even caused them much fear. You mentioned the word judgment. I mean, if someone gets served a judgment to appear in court, can they go to jail if they don't show up?
Well, what will happen is you won't be served a judgment. You'll be served a petition along with a citation that requires an answer to be filed within a certain length of time. That's a lawsuit filed against you. If you cannot, let's say it's a credit card, and you cannot settle with the folks or pay it off, then you will have a judgment against you. But as I've said earlier, judgments are, in Texas, almost just pieces of paper, because there's very little, if any, way for a judgment creditor to collect anything unless you have non-exempt assets. Now, non-exempt assets would be a big bank account, a stock brokerage account, real estate other than your homestead. And the answer to the last question is you cannot go to jail for any of this. Even if you just ignore the citation, ignore the petition, nobody's going to put you in jail. That's the way I came over here from England, to get away from the debt, from these jailings for debt.
Debtor's prison, yeah. Well, that's good to know. Something that I think is a concern for a lot of people, because as good, ethical people, moral Americans, many people find themselves unable to pay, but yet wanting to pay. How can an ethical person recover from having large debt loads?
Well, I deal with most of the folks that have these ethical concerns, and it is a concern for most everybody, particularly if you're Christian, and the Bible says pay your debts. But if you're against the wall and you just don't have money to pay the debts, you don't have money. Mm-hmm. So we have been able to help these people, and if everything goes right, then we can help these people settle it sometime in the future if their financial situation permits, and settle it without any tax problem.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it's good to point out that your program, your special program that you've built with your years of experience, is all based on Texas law. So when it comes to ethical concerns, if anyone accepts your help and follows your plan, they're going to be doing so based on Texas law. So obviously there's nothing unethical about following the law. Well, another thing, as we're talking about Texas and as we're talking about Americans, should I try to get myself out of a situation like this before calling you? In other words, should I take a run at this with self-help methods before reaching out? What would you recommend there?
Yeah, we always recommend self-help, because and what you're doing, of course, is calling your creditors and asking for your interest rate to be lowered or your payments spread out. But we have found that these creditors very rarely will ever help you. So although we recommend you try it, we also suggest to you that don't be disappointed, because you probably won't get a whole lot of help from these folks. But at least you know that you've tried, and then you've got to have somebody help you.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the quicker a person takes action, the better. And obviously being armed with knowledge when you take action is what's most helpful. So how would you describe, Judge Jed, your service as being different?
Well, every person's, everybody has different creditors, and they all have different methods of collection. So what I suggest for folks out there with unsecured debts, such as credit cards or medical debts, is to give us a call, and we'll set up a time for a no-obligation consult, at which time you can tell me who your creditors are, what's the status of the accounts, last time you made the payments. Then we can tell you what we can do, explain in full, and how much they will cost you. And then you can make your own decision whether to use this or not.
Yeah, that sounds fair. And quite honestly, when I first got to know you, I had moved here from out of state. There were different laws in those states. Didn't have a lot of experience talking to attorneys, and to be candid, it's kind of intimidating to call an attorney. I see attorney commercials on TV. I hear on the radio. They kind of have an aggressive persona at times, and I know that may not be true, but I found that you were kind, approachable, caring person. But, again, others may not have experience in talking to attorneys or knowing them personally. So what should a person expect when they reach out and call you?
Well, they should expect a sympathetic ear, because most of my legal career, I have represented banks and creditors. So I know how these banks and creditors have made me talk to debtors, and I know how I must have intimidated just a whole lot of people. And now I'm on the other side of the street since I retired from the creditor bank law business, and it flipped over and represented the folks that really need the help. Mm-hmm. And the reason we are able to be so successful is because we know both sides of the street, since we've already represented creditors before, and we know what they can do and what they will threaten you with.
Okay. Good to know. So when a person calls you, there's no pressure. You'll listen. There's no charge to make that phone call. You're not starting a clock, so to speak, correct?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And I will tell you that the quicker, the better for you. If you've got these debts, and even if they're current, but you see down the line pretty closely that you're going to hit the wall and not be able to pay these debts, our system works much, much better the earlier we get into the picture. So we don't pressure anybody with the telephone. We let them make their own decisions. But what we try to do is have a consult where both, if they're married, where both the man and the woman can talk to us, ask questions, and get them answered, and then we let them make their decisions.
Okay. Very good. So you are based in Houston, but you actually serve and work with clients all over the state of Texas. Is that right?
That's
Mostly
correct.
by phone? Okay.
That's correct. All over the state of Texas.
So people don't have to drive to your office. They can do it on a lunch break or in privacy of their cell phone or home office, which is nice because we're all busy these days. Judge Jed, thanks so much. As we wrap this up, could you share a phone number where people can reach out and talk to you?
Yes, our 888 number is 888-982-8609. My number in Houston is 713-750-9038. And our website is shawdefense.com.
Very good. So if it's a Texas-wide number that we could use is 888-982-8609, and they can find you at shawdefense.com.
That's
Thanks
correct.
so much, Judge Jed. It was great talking with you, and thank you for clarifying these frequently asked questions and for helping Texans.
Well, thank you, Brant. I'm happy to do it.